to the communication skills session. This would be, I guess, the first lecture session we have. Yeah. Today we're going to be discussing a little about active listening skills. Active listening is, we'll get to active listening. I want to start with active listening because listening is one of the most important communication skills and one of the most fundamental things that usually gets ignored. You kind of train to publicly speak or to, work with people and stuff like that, but listening is the one thing that you usually lack. Like I wouldn't say lack, but the one thing you usually forget. So yeah, let's go on to active listening. What's active listening? It's, according to Google, it's a way of listening and responding to a person's that improves mutual understanding. It's a way to improve the connection and the understanding you'd have with someone that's speaking. It could be for a lecture, it could be for an interview, it could be for someone that's requesting an advice from you, or it could be from someone that's actually giving an advice to you anyways. It's a very generic concept that applies to a lot of things, but it improves the effectiveness of the speech that's given and the way that it makes the problem solving phase afterwards easier. So it's always a prerequisite for every communication you have to do pretty much. Okay. There are some skills that will help you, some things that you can do that can help you improve your active listening skill. For now, we've mentioned paying attention to what's being said, reflecting, clarifying, summarizing, sharing. These are some of the important skills that you need to be doing while listening to someone. Like for instance, like you're listening to me. I wonder if any of you are even paying attention right now. Anyways, okay, I'll try and explain what those are. So, what are you supposed to do right now? The first step would be paying attention. Paying attention means don't cut the speaker off and show it with your body language. One thing that you shouldn't do is you shouldn't intimidate the speaker when the speaker is speaking. Yeah, see, they just cut me off. You should always wait for pausing moments before you actually have to do any interruptions. You should try to figure out the pace that's going on, and you should show some respect to the speaker to make them feel welcome and to make them explain themselves better, I guess. And you can show that with your body language. You can keep your eyes on them. You shouldn't it wouldn't make sense if you were staring on the other direction and you pretend like you're listening to me. Like if I'm not seeing it, it's going to intimidate me. It's not going to be cool. So you should show it with your body language to make the person feel more comfortable with what you're doing. Next thing is reflecting. Reflecting is the act that you do to make the speaker understand what page you're on. So you shouldn't never really assume you understand everything the speaker is saying, and you should never really assume the speaker understands how much you're understanding. So you should never assume they know how much you're understanding, and for instance, if you're not understanding so much, you shouldn't assume that they're going to explain it later because they didn't explain it well before. You should always make sure you communicate how much you understand with them. This is especially important in an interview because interviewers usually try to stay back until you engage them and you clear up the things that you're listening from them, and you make sure that everything you're understanding has been synced with the speaker, if that makes sense, I guess. And make sure you're on the same page pretty much. You can keep using some paraphrasings and periodically keep informing the person what they're saying. So for instance, it could be you're supposed to do some code and it says, so when I enter the input 2 it works, and when I enter the input 3 it doesn't work, and when I enter the input 4 it works, and when I enter the input 5 it doesn't work. So you hear that and you think, oh, so you mean when you enter odd numbers it doesn't work, and when you enter even numbers it works? Like this is a good thing you can summarize that, and you can confirm with the speaker that they mean even numbers and they don't mean prime numbers or something like that. If that makes sense. Okay. The next thing is clarification. You're going to hear about questions a lot when you're preparing for interviews, like in terms of communication. never shy away from questions. You always must clear up everything you don't understand, and you should always ask more questions than you need to, I guess. Like, you should feel free to ask too many questions rather than less questions than you can. The whole point of active listening is to understand what the person is saying, and it's not about telling people something. It's more about querying some information from them. So, like, the questions you ask, first of all, they're gonna help you understand things you didn't understand. Plus, they're gonna help the speaker understand what you're not understanding, I guess. Like, it helps with the reflection part of things. And one special thing that questions do is they tailor the speaker's speech to your specific needs. For instance, I might be talking about like what questions, right? But you may be specifically confused about a specific type of questions. For instance, it could be what kind of questions I should ask. Would be your your confusion, right? Like, if you ask me that, for instance, I'd explain my thoughts more to your own needs, right? Like, it would be more tailored to your needs. Yeah, that's the best way I can put it, I guess. Okay. The next thing is summarizing. After you've heard a lot of words, after you heard a lot of sentences, a lot of paragraphs, you may need to go back through the whole thing that you've listened to and find a summary of what you've understood and explain that summary back to the speaker to confirm that you've understood it, right? You can think of yourself as a doctor who listens to the different symptoms that the person is telling, and you provide a summary, which is the diagnosis that the doctor gives, and you can present that back to the person. But since in this case the person knows it, it's more of the person already understands each situation. It's more of confirmation that the person would give you. So you're not going to decide what the diagnosis is. You just predict the diagnosis, and the person confirms it. All right. The next step is sharing. These past steps, they're more in the understanding part of the speech. Let's call it a speech for now. After you've understood what's happening, the next step could be sharing your experiences, your feelings, your attitudes about it. So far you've only been focused on what the speaker said and what the speaker thought, without having to think of your opinions and your feelings. But the next, after all those have happened, is when you're allowed to share your feelings and share your thoughts, or maybe share your similar experiences that you've had, as an additional information to what you've already gathered. So this helps this helps to understand the speaker. This helps to show that you've understood the speaker's perspective, and you even have another example that you can compare to that as an analogy. So it gives a second perspective to what's happening so far. Okay, after all these steps is when you can move to the problem-solving step. So this part, these whole steps help you to understand what's happening right there, what the person is saying, for instance. Once you've understood it, there usually is some task that comes afterwards. Right? So, for instance, if an interviewer is explaining something to you, you're supposed to solve a problem that the interviewer is asking. So the next step would be analyzing, by these steps, you'd already know what the speaker has said, what information you've gathered, what information is missing, and what steps could be taken on that information and stuff like that. You can move to the solving issue, the solving part of the problem, I guess. The problem solving comes after all these steps. And yeah, let me leave you off with some tips.
Okay. Hi everyone. So we run through a bunch of slides, and we talked about what listening is, what active listening is, and some of the steps we should take when we are actively listening to people. So before we jump into all of this, I want to take a step back and recap on how active listening actually works. So for example, the tips I'll share and the steps we've shared so far, they wouldn't work, for example, for listening to a podcast or the radio. It works in situations where there's a need for active listening, where you also communicate your understanding, your level of understanding, back to the giver of the speech. So the reason for that being, the reason the speaker actually gives you the speech because he wants or she wants you to understand something, and you're basically being on the same team. You're helping them. You're giving feedback. You're directing them the right course when it comes to making you understand what they're trying to say. So take all of this and the ones that we've had so far from the perspective of trying to help the speaker get to his point, or trying to help the speaker making you understand. So don't take this as a formula, don't take these 6 steps as these 6 steps you have to do specifically in order to have that label of active listening, but think more of it in the direction of how can I help the speaker? Since I don't have any clue, and that's the person who has the information, how can I help him deliver it, or her deliver it more effectively? And one big one, and I see it in good amount here, is making eye contact. I think most of you have your attention to me, and it says a lot. It says that we're paying attention, like instead of maybe opposed to on your phone, and it really has a different shift. Maybe taking notes, maybe that also has the same level, depending on the situation, but eye contact really solidifies it in terms of whether or not you're paying attention, and it's just communicating to the speaker. It doesn't actually hold any real meaning. And also not interrupting the flow. When there's pauses and there's time to ask questions, then during the natural flow, you can come to the questions, you can ask the clarifying questions, but don't interrupt the flow of the speaker. That's very important. And I'll go directly down. And when it comes to using body language, I see it a bit commonly, like maybe it's a nod, or maybe someone doing like this if they're confused about something, and standing from here and speaking out, or if it's an interview, the interviewer detailing some stuff to you. It's very hard to get a read on what people are thinking, how they're receiving it, and having that kind of uninterrupting feed of information from you guys, that really helps the people move forward. Like if I see multiple people nodding, I feel like, oh, people are comfortable with this, I can move on to the next one. Otherwise, if I see many confused people, I could pause and ask for questions, and I see that, hey, nice, putting it in action right on the spot. And also, don't go on autopilot, being just nodding and just phasing off. If you find yourself phasing off, try to think of why. And maybe if it's not interesting enough or it's taking the wrong direction, try to guide them back. Since they're talking to you and they want you to get something, try not to go on autopilot as best you can. If you drift off, come back again. And paraphrasing, it's something I discovered after A2SV, and I've been using it quite a lot. I find it really good, especially when you're not sure what the other person is saying. You just take a second back, and when it's your time to speak, you say, just so we're sure we're on the same page, let me just say it back to you, and you make sure it's the same thing we're talking about, and then you go through it. If it's something different, if you added something new, the conversation would flow much clearer than assuming that you're on the same page and then finding out way ahead that you're actually not. And this paraphrasing, I think if I could underline or bold it, one of these 6 tips, I think paraphrasing would be one of those. And don't be defensive. I guess sometimes, most likely not in interviews, but in other circumstances you might feel the need of responding. So maybe if you feel like the opinion is invalid or something like that, you feel like, oh, I have to say something back to this, and in the process you ignore every good valid point that's been made so far. You just focus on your response instead. And take them like as tips, inputs, not steps we followed 1, 2, 3, 4, and as such. And so this is, I think, is that covered for everyone?
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
Are we gonna see some examples of active listening after this?
Active listening was a bit tough. Trying to find active listening, but we're gonna have several, like an activity where we have listening skills put on the challenge.
I see. Like, yeah, I guess in any kind of interaction there is some sort of active listening happening in half of it. So, cool.
Yeah, and I guess like active listening is more of a thought process than something that you see a lot. I guess like you have some things that you can see, but most of the work happens in your mind. Like it's about how focused you are, and it's about what you're thinking about. That's mostly important, I guess. And I want to add one more thing to this, which is something we did on our first Q&A session, which is most people when you're listening to something, you're usually thinking about what you're going to respond.
right?
That's not usually a bad. That's not usually a good thing. So you need, but it needs practice to kind of get used to them more. The understanding part of the listening, just like staying focused on understanding the concept. Forget about what I'm about to respond or what the solution is going to be when I'm listening to it. There's always time after understanding it to figure out what to say and what solutions to find.
Right on time for the activities. No, not sarcasm. It's actually right on time for the activities. So for this one, should I go for it? Okay. And is this readable? Or so? Can everyone read this?
Yeah.
Oh, well, who said yeah? Could you read it out?
I went to the store and bought
Bought what?
clothes.
Okay. So and then we go to Matlam and you add a word, another item that you bought at the store. I went to the store and bought clothes and the full sentence.
I went to the store and bought a kilo of banana.
Oh, both clothes and
So can you say it again?
I went to the store and bought clothes and a kilo of banana.
Okay. And then
Can you say that please? 'Cause
Yeah.
Other people have to listen to this.
really loud.
I went to the store and bought clothes and a kilo of banana.
Now a little louder. Not a little, but much louder. Let's see.
I mean, try to scream and let's say, oh, too loud.
You got this.
I went to the store and bought a clothes and a kilo of banana.
Okay. So if everyone gets the gist, each one person names an item, and the one person after it has to repeat this list of items that other people mention and add their own, and it goes to the next one. The first one to break it somehow, to forget what the other people said, or add something irrelevant, like I went to the store and bought confidence, something like that. They'll get kicked out. So it has to go with the sentence. And so is everyone clear? Do you have any questions? Any and all is welcome. Where should we start?
Yeah, I think we need to change up where we
Do we
start
have an
a
upper
lot.
bound on the longest length that we're gonna have, or can people just fail because of the memory?
Fail because of the one. Yeah, that's the one. I mean, we're not gonna kick people out again, right? That's not happening. No. And so yeah, just go and it should be fun and try to be loud since everyone else is also going to say your item, and let's see how it goes from now. Or okay, loudly and
Do I continue from
no,
there?
no, no. We start.
Oh. Okay, I went to the store and bought shoes.
Loud, really loud.
You should have prepared that earlier.
I went to the store and bought shoes and banana.
I went to the store and bought shoes, banana, and hats. Hats.
I went to the store and bought shoes, banana, hats, and a pair of
Pair of what?
trousers.
Pants.
I went to the store and bought. I went to the store and bought shoes, banana, hats, and pair of trousers and socks. Pair of socks. I went to the store and bought shoes, bananas, hats, a pair of trousers, pair of socks, and a phone.
And what?
Phone.
I went to the store and bought shoes, bananas, hats, pair of trousers, pair of socks, phone, and another phone.
I went to the store and bought shoes, bananas, hats, trousers, socks, phone, and earphone, and bread. And bread for the banana.
I went to the store. I went to store and bought
shoes, banana, hats, pair of trousers, pair of socks, phones, bread,
Missed the one we had earphones.
Earphones and bread.
earphones.
Let's do right. Let's do like this, or should we continue this? Okay, let's do that. You got left.
And for this one, we can start from Brook, then come this way and get to Muhammad and go that way.
Oh, but Brook was right.
Yeah, Brook close, yeah, so we can start from Nasma. On King, so we go this way.
Pretty well.
Today for lunch I ate shrimp.
Today for lunch I ate shrimp and spaghetti.
See.
Today for lunch I ate shrimp, spaghetti and missile.
Today for lunch I ate shrimp, spaghetti, missile, and drink water.
Drink water.
What is that? In Italian? No, right? Yeah. We can keep this going on. Like
No, keep the same sentence.
A new one or?
Oh, the new one with this one.
Today for lunch I ate donut. Today for lunch I ate donuts and
Today for lunch I ate donut, fruit, and pizza. Today for lunch I ate donuts, fruit, pizza, and biryani.
Today for lunch I ate donuts, sulfur, pizza, biryani and tomato.
Today for lunch I ate what was it? Donut, frufru, pizza, biryani and sandwich.
Oh, you skipped mine. What did I eat? Tomato.
Tomato, yeah.
you've lost. Can everybody see this? Go on. Because he's already kicked us.
A bottle of whiskey.
I just drank water, a bottle of whiskey, and water.
I just drank water, a bottle of whiskey, what, and amboha.
I just drank a bottle of whiskey, water, what, amboha, and Pepsi.
The order, no, water was first. Not the bottle of whiskey. You did the bottle of whiskey first.
Next time drink some water before whiskey.
I guess that eliminates any. We can still continue this, right?
So restart or restart? Restart.
I just drank Coca. I just drank Coca and juice.
I just drank coca, juice and tea.
I just drink coca, juice, tea, and water.
Water.
Huh?
Water.
I can't hear you. What did you say?
Water.
Water.
Oh.
Wow.
He's eliminated.
I just drank coca.
I just drank coca, juice, tea, water, and milk.
I just drink coca, juice, tea, water, milk, and bobo.
Bobo. For kids.
I just drank coca, juice, tea, milk, water, bobo, and Pepsi.
Well, he said milk before tea.
Okay, let's try to make it fast this time because we might forget. He sounds like at this point. So we start from again. Let's just continue. You did?
Just continue. Yesterday I dreamed of playing football. And next trip.
Okay, start again.
Yesterday I dreamed of nothing.
Yesterday I dreamt of nothing and buying a new car. Yesterday I dreamt of nothing, buying a new car and climbing a mountain.
Yesterday I dreamed
You're out.
buying a new car.
You're out. You were out today. You're not listening? Come on, what is that?
Yesterday, I dreamt of nothing, buying a new car, and I missed the
Okay, continue. We change any word or?
Restart or?
Okay.
Yesterday I dreamt of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain, and camping on that mountain.
Yesterday I dreamt of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain and settling on that mountain, and watching a movie.
Yesterday I dreamt of the club.
What was that? Sorry.
Yesterday I dreamed of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain, camping on the mountain.
No, let's start, Danny.
Oh, damn.
Yesterday I dreamt of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain, camping on the mountain, watching a movie on it, and fired up some grease.
Yesterday I dreamt of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain, camping there, and watching a movie there, and firing some roots, then and joining Google.
Yesterday I dreamed of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain, sitting on top of the mountain, watching a movie, grilling some or firing up some grills, and joining Google. But I already made a mistake, so yes, I sitting on the mountain. I guess it was something else.
Settling on the mountain.
Settling up.
Camping.
Camping. Okay, I didn't get that. So.
Okay. Yesterday I dreamed of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain, settling on that mountain, watching a movie, grilling some.
Your weakness. Okay, this one. Continue. This is history.
Yesterday I dreamt of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain, camping on the mountain, watching a movie there, firing up the grill, then joining Google, then got attacked by a mouse.
Yesterday I dreamt of nothing, buying a new car, watching a movie, climbing a mountain.
You watched the movie too early.
Yeah.
He didn't even climb the mountain. Little long camping.
First you did the watch your
Let's continue. Yeah, okay. Let's start.
Yesterday I dreamed of nothing, buying a new car, climbing a mountain, camping on that mountain, watching a movie, grilling up some woods, joining Google, and attacked by monsters, and recording this session. That was it.
Yesterday I dreamed of nothing, buying a new car, climbing on the mountain, settling on the mountain, and watching a movie, and reading some fires, and joining Google.
That's it?
I didn't hear.
Yeah. You could have heard him. You didn't have to do this. Yeah, that's it for Yeah. So, yeah, it's not okay. Good job. So, who's left at this point? I'm finding it hard to track at this.
Who's still in the game?
Raise your hands, please.
Raise your hand if you're in the game.
Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. Yeah. Let's have them.
I joined A2SV because
I felt lucky.
Because what?
Felt lucky.
I joined the HSV because I felt lucky and because it's the best place to work.
I joined HSV because I get lucky and this is the best place to learn and I want to go.
I joined A2SV because I felt lucky. It's the best way to learn. I wanted to grow and I wanted to do a lot of questions.
I joined A2SV because
Good job.
I want to join A2SV because I was lucky.
Okay, go on.
I joined A2SV because I felt lucky. It's the best place to learn. I wanted to grow. I wanted to do a lot of questions, and it felt interesting.
I joined HSV because I felt lucky. I needed to grow. I wanted to improve.
Okay, make a circle. Wow. It's the cycle thing, make a circle. Still, this is nothing. It's make a physical circle. Yes. Look at each other. No. Come on. Get out of the projector scene and then. Good. Now, on my way here,
On my way here, I bought a pen.
On my way here, I bought a pen and wrote some notes.
On my way here, I bought a pen, wrote some notes, and ate an apple.
On my way here, I bought a pen, wrote some notes, ate an apple, and read the notes.
On my way there, I bought a note.
You had
On
my way here, I bought a page, wrote some notes, ate an apple, read the notes, and burned it.
On my way here, I bought a pen, I wrote a note. I ate an apple. I read that note, and I got asked what I ate.
No, you forgot one.
Oh,
You didn't burn the notes.
Oh, shit.
I forgot.
Okay. Yeah. Oh no. It's a triangle. So basically, structure. Let's do the structure. Go on.
On my way here, I bought a pen, wrote some notes, ate an apple, read those notes, burnt it, and ate another apple.
Okay, on my way here, I got a pen, wrote some notes, ate an apple, read the notes, burnt the notes, bought another apple, and burnt those apples too.
By apples, I
Eight.
Eight.
Oh, you said 8?
Yeah, yeah.
On my way here, I bought a pen, wrote some notes, ate an apple, read those notes, burnt it, and ate another apple, and burnt the apples too, and bought a pen.
On my way here, I bought a pen, wrote some notes, ate an apple, read those notes, burnt those notes, ate another apple, burnt those apples, bought a pencil, and bought a coloring pen.
On my way here, I bought a pen, wrote some notes, ate an apple, read the notes, burnt the note, ate another apple, bought a pencil, bought a coloring pen, and wrote some colorful notes.
Forgot to burn it up.
Fine. That's awesome.
Will you start?
No.
On my way here, I bought a pen, wrote some notes, ate an apple, read those notes, burned the notes, ate another apple, burned those apples too, and I bought a pencil, and I bought a coloring pen. And I bought paper.
Okay, on my way here, I bought a pen, I wrote some notes, I ate an apple, I read those notes, I burned those notes, I ate another apple, then I burned those apples, I bought a pencil, I bought a coloring pen, I bought a paper, I burned those papers.
On my way home, I bought a pen, wrote some notes, ate an apple, read those notes, burned those notes, ate another apple, burned those apples too, bought a pencil, bought a coloring pen, bought a paper and burned those papers, and get back to dorm.
Finally.
Yeah.
On my way here, I bought a pen, I wrote some notes, I ate an apple, I read those notes, I burned those notes, I ate another apple, I burned those apples, I bought a pencil, I bought a paper, I bought a coloring pen. Oh, did I switch it up? Sorry guys.
Okay, and that's the end of the session for today. Thank you all for participating. And you can go back to class.